This is Oliver Miller at close to 400 pounds, which makes him probably the heaviest player in NBA history. Things were so bad that even the Suns mascot mocked him. Throughout his career, Miller was always known as a thick boy, which severely limited his potential. Charles Barkley, who was his teammate for a few years, once said that Miller could be an all-star if he learned 2 words: "I'm full." He was probably one of the guys that Chuck was talking about when he said this.
I'm not gonna name guys, I don't want to embarrass guys. During my time, I've seen probably 10 guys who ate their way out of the NBA who could have been making $1 gazillion if they'd been able to control their appetite and had a great work ethic.
And you can see the point in these highlights. Miller is moving extremely well even with all that weight, and you can imagine how much better he would be if he stayed disciplined. Speaking of discipline, one time Oliver got so mad at the ref for not getting a foul call that he wanted to launch a chair at him. Crazy. So after posting career highs in his 3rd season, Miller started to spiral downwards and was out of the league by the age of 29. But in a stunning turn of events, he made a return 4 years later at 33, looking much slimmer, but only played for half a season for the Timberwolves. Now, the craziest thing is that he's probably not the biggest foodie on this list. Just listen to Jerome James listing his favorite meals.
They love my spaghetti. 3 cheese, 2 meat spaghetti. I make a mean steak, very tender, very soft, with asparagus and potatoes.
Man, you could see the joy on his face while talking about food. His nickname was literally Big Snacks, and he had a great reason to enjoy life. Check out his staggering career arc. In 4 seasons with Seattle, James averaged 5 points and 3.5 rebounds, but he had one solid playoff run of 12 points per game, losing in the 2nd round, and all of a sudden, the Knicks thought that at 29 years of age, he is just now becoming Wilt Chamberlain or something, so they gave him a huge deal. The fact that this highlight was one of the only ones that I could find while searching for Jerome James videos on YouTube speaks a ton about what type of player he was. He came back to 2.5 points and 2 rebounds in 4 seasons with the Knicks and focused on indulging in good food instead of playing. This is a great time to mention Eddie Curry on this list as well, who the Knicks signed alongside James to form a dominant frontcourt duo. Instead, they created probably the heaviest set of teammates in the league. This is the complete opposite of my story, as I formed the quickest backcourt with my new teammate, Opera. I'm more productive than Jaylen Brown in the finals, but even crazier, I'm having a lot of fun working and browsing the web. I use a lot of tabs, and now I can add emojis to them by hovering over a tab, which helps me stay organized and customizes them. So you already know that this one with League Pass gets the heart emoji because I just love this game. I usually put fire for YouTube, but when I need to fill out a form or do taxes or things like that, that's always the sleep emoji because it's boring. Another great thing with Opera are the tab islands. I always have like 10 tabs with different stats for a player, so when I want to switch to a different type of tab and chill out on the analytics, I can group all of these together and collapse them to save space or open them back up at any time. And the sidebar is just genius. I have a few text tabs here for quick replies, and of course Twitter to never miss a breaking news tweet from Woj. So bring some fun while staying organized and productive with Opera's emojis for tabs. Download Opera from the link in the description and get your perfect teammate. Thanks Opera for sponsoring this video. You may not believe this, but around the same time, the Knicks had yet another massively overweight player on the team. And this is a tough story. Mike Switney struggled with his weight even in college, but despite that, he still posted an impressive 23 points and 10 rebounds per game in his junior year at Georgetown, so New York drafted him with the 9th pick. However, Switney's NBA journey started out with a tragedy as his dad passed away shortly after the draft. Mike fell into serious depression and turned to food for relief. His weight quickly ballooned to the point where he was barely moving on the court. And even looking this big and slow, Switney still gave the Lakers work for 19 points and 12 rebounds.
Switney against Mim. Goes up and under. Nice ball from Switney. And Switney looks up at the shot clock. Nice up and under move from Michael Switney.
But these games were few and far between, and Mike was suffering from the agonizing depression day after day. Things escalated one night when he tried to commit suicide. Remembering that horrific moment in an interview, he said this: "We were in Cleveland one night and I just took a bunch of pain pills hoping it would take me out. But I woke up the next morning thinking, well, it didn't work. That's how bad it was. And with a career average of 6.5 points per game, Sweetney was far from the potential he showed in college. He only lasted 4 seasons in the NBA, and at age 24, he was already out of the league. This grainy footage is the last chance the Celtics gave him in a preseason run, but you can see that he can barely get off the floor. And things escalated for him overseas, where he reached a humongous size. But after a ton of trials and tribulations, it's good to hear that Mike's story has a happy end, as he got the help he needed to deal with his depression, and he's now helping other young athletes to not get derailed and not fall in a dark hole, which was exactly what happened to Shawn Kemp.
Now Kemp going to the hoop. Wow! Now that is attacking the basket.
Lean it down with 2 hands, baby! Foul on the play!
In his prime, Kemp was an unstoppable force, a double-double machine with one of the sickest dunk compilations in NBA history. Him and Gary Payton formed an electric duo that took the Seattle Supersonics all the way to the finals. But this is the beginning of his downfall. The very next season, he starts drinking heavily, staying in bars late into the night, even knowing that he has a game the next day. The Sonics did not like that at all, so they wouldn't offer him a new contract, and this is the beginning of obese Shawn Kemp. The Cleveland Cavaliers gave an emotionally unstable guy a $100 million contract, and Kemp would use this big payday to dive deeper into his vices. Mixing in junk food, alcohol abuse, and worst of all, cocaine, got him looking from a freak of nature athlete to this. The latter years in Cleveland and the subsequent ones in Portland as well as Orlando were tough to watch. He was a shell of himself and played his last game in the NBA at 33 years of age. Now, this is the point of the video where rookie Dirk Nowitzki enters the conversation. I know it sounds strange, as he played for 21 years and was always slim. In fact, his wife would always cook his healthy pre-game meal, put it on a plate, and wrap it with tinfoil. So no, of course he didn't eat his way out of the league. But the guy that Dirk was traded for on draft night did.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
Yeah, Dirk was actually a Bucks pick, but they traded him just moments later for Robert Traylor, completely altering the history of their franchise and the entire NBA. Traylor's nickname, by the way, was the Tractor, and for obvious reasons. Even in his rookie year, he was already 300 pounds, and that number continued to grow throughout his career, ultimately causing him health problems. A career 5-point and 3-rebound per game guy, Tractor was far from his 16-10 at college, where he dominated on both ends. And a large reason for that was his inability to get his weight under control. In 2005, as a free agent, Traylor failed a physical exam for New Jersey Nets, and they voided the contract that they were supposed to give him. Robert would never play another game in the NBA, and after 7 seasons, he was out of the league. In 2011, Traylor sadly passed away from a heart attack, a consequence of the shape he was in. Next up is Jared Sullinger, a guy who was naturally a bigger build, but instead of working on improving the body he had in college and taking the next step in the NBA, he only got worse with each consecutive season. This is the reason why Sullinger slid down to the 21st pick instead of going top 10. He had back injuries, which GMs felt was a result of him being overweight, so they were hesitant to draft him. After his sophomore year in Boston, Brad Stevens and the Celtics asked him to get down to 260 pounds for the following training camp, but he showed up 20 pounds heavier, and management did not like that at all. Despite having a decent season, he looked way out of shape and would even admit it himself that he had conditioning problems. Jared told reporters that he would save his energy for later on in the game because he was not in good enough shape to go all out in the first half. After his 4th season with Boston, the team just let him become a free agent, and the Raptors signed him to a 1-year deal. But right before the season, Sullinger had foot surgery and played very little for Toronto. This combination of weight issues causing him injuries, along with the fact that he was an undersized big man who never developed an outside shot to stretch the floor, meant that teams weren't willing to take a chance on him, and at only 25, Sullinger found himself playing in China. Then we got this guy.
Glenn, you're the pro. You did this last year. Show Nick how it's done, Glenn. Be careful.
this one is impressive to me. The fact that Big Baby was able to play for 8 seasons while being severely overweight in each and every one of them is stunning. Davis even has a 15-point and 7 rebound per game year in Orlando. And speaking of the Magic, here's the dagger that he hit against them in the playoffs.
It's Davis taking the shot. Scores! He scores at the buzzer! And the Celtics have defeated the Magic on a buzzer beater by Glenn Big Baby Davis to tie the series at 2.
The Celtics put a $500,000 bonus in his contract for him to stay at a certain weight. Yeah, $500,000 extra to chill on the junk food. That's insane, but it happens often in the league. The Spurs did it with Boris Diaw, who joined San Antonio after a bad year with the Bobcats and him clearly being out of shape. So the Spurs put an interesting weight clause in his contract. Diaw would get $150,000 if he weighed 250 pounds or less on opening night, then $150K for the same weight on the day after the All-Star break, and $200,000 on April 1st, basically ensuring that Diaw would be motivated to consistently stay in shape throughout the entire season.
Here's how smart Boris Diaw is. He makes that move and he knows he's going to make the play to Tony Parker, so he delays in midair before he makes the pass. Just a big-time play by Diaw.
And apparently this happens on a superstar level as well. The Pelicans did it to Zion after years of him failing to show up in a proper superstar shape. Just imagine him with all the physical abilities and athleticism taking care of his body the same way that LeBron has done, for example. He would be unstoppable. And speaking of LeBron, my last video exposes why James was suspended from a Team USA game by his coach and what happened later when LeBron came for revenge. You gotta check out this video right here. Talk to you in the next one. Peace out.